forged from the love of liberty in the fires of hope and prayer. With boundless faith in our destiny, we solemnly declare. Side by side we stand, islands of the blue Caribbean Sea, this our native land. We pledge our lives to thee. Here every creed and race find an equal place, and may God bless our nation. Here every creed and race find an equal place, and may God bless our nation.
Heavenly Father, we come before you at the start of this new day, giving thanks for life, for health, and the opportunity to serve through this station. We ask for your divine presence to guide us in all we do. Bless this broadcast, that it may be a source of inspiration, joy, and unity to all who tune in. Whether near or far, may our words uplift, our music heal, and our message bring light to those who need it most. We pray for our listeners, wherever they may be. Grant them strength for the day ahead, peace in their hearts, and success in all they put their hands to. Cover those traveling with your protection, and those at home with your comfort and provision. Lord, may everything we do bring honor to you and be a blessing to others. Guide our steps, bless our efforts, and let this station be a vessel of positivity and hope. In your name we pray. Amen.
Your voice, your soundtrack, your station. New Era TT Radio. Net Radio.
I'm watching your bumper rolling back. It's thicker than a milkshake. Not one mistake. You have everything I want. That's a fact. Only so much I could take. For goodness sake, I could give you a nice, vice, girl. Would you go home with me? Would you go home with me? I giving you right spice all night. Would you go home? Girl, you have everything I want. Every single thing I want. It's wrapped up in you. Wrapped up in you. Pressure when you hold me from the front. If I only tell you what I going through. I going through. I feel you're making little style on me. Tell me what is your deal. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I want you come over. Let me leave this party and make it real. Real, real, real. I never seen a woman grip me so. I feel like going crazy.
Wake up, rise up. It's the Net Radio Breakfast Show. Bringing you the energy, music and vibes to start your day right.
Hey, girl, you have a hold on me. What you want me to do?
Hey, you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, bless you wherever you may be right about now. Trinidad, Tobago,
You keep pushing back, I
up and down the Eastern Caribbean, the wider world. Hey, you. We'll be talking to you this morning.
am watching your
Good to have you here.
rolling back.
It's New Era TT Radio, heartbeat of the Caribbean, as we take you above and beyond.
Everything I want, that
Beautiful day it is. I got to say much thanks to the Heavenly Father for bringing us together for another one.
you say.
All that we do, dear God, let it be a blessing on to you.
Would you go
Sir Charles, that is me, together with my team.
with me? I giving you right.
We welcome you to the Get Up and Go. This is your breakfast show.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Wake up, it's a brand new dawn. The breakfast show got the vibes turned on. From Morocco's Bay to the Savannah line. Let's start the day in Caribbean prime. Oh, oh, good vibes rolling through the air. The breakfast show energy everywhere. We talk, we laugh, we make you think. Grab your doubles or your morning drink.
Hi, good morning, and welcome to the breakfast show this morning, this Thursday morning. And of course, the weekend begins tonight, people, at a second after midnight, just in case you didn't know. So welcome, of course. I had to rush to get my cup of coffee, but I got it. And I am ready to go. Of course, all sorts of things planned for the show today. We'll be speaking with Rishi Maharaj and Mariano Browne, and of course, the high-profile firings of the central bank governor and the WASA CEO. Some of the things that we will discuss. We're going to try and discuss the Israel-Iran conflict and how that affects the Caribbean, if it does, and how does it affect Trinidad and Tobago in particular. So lots in store on this show on this Thursday morning, and of course, we will be talking to you. So welcome once again, and thank you for choosing us wherever you are, Trinidad and Tobago, the Caribbean, across the planet. Thanks for choosing us as your morning Get Up and Go show. Good morning to my co-hosts, Wendell and Sir Charles.
Good morning, Sir Charles. Good morning, Mr. Bagubasi. How are you doing? Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and good morning, listeners and viewers all over the globe. It's a beautiful Thursday morning out. I was outside very early this morning. Don't ask me why. But it's a beautiful morning. We're here. We're happy to be in the land of the living. Of course, when we get into the good news, Richard, I also want you to give me an opportunity to narrate a bit of good news, to do a little narration, and also if I could do my birthdays, I'd probably could do my birthdays now because I have a list. And strange enough, today is June 26th, right?
Yeah.
It's the people who I have are celebrating birthdays today, all have one thing in common. Strange enough.
You was a friend?
No. But when I call the names, the people themselves will realize what they have in common. So happy birthday to my nephew first, Dean Stephen. He is celebrating his birthday today. He's the first of the grandchildren of my deceased parents. So happy birthday, Dean. Happy birthday to Juma Lessie. He's a building inspector at the Port of Spain Corporation. Wendell ATN is celebrating her birthday today too. Happy birthday, Wendell. He would have hosted the program with us for a while. Richard, your mic is muted. And I'm seeing your mouth moving, but I'm not hearing you. Still not hearing you. Anyway, happy birthday also to...
Are you hearing me now?
Yes, I'm hearing you now.
Oh, okay. I don't know what happened there. But I'm saying happy birthday to Wendell.
Yes, happy birthday also to Hilan Morin, former deputy mayor of Port of Spain. Happy birthday. And happy birthday also to June Durham, former councillor for Woodbrook in the city of Port of Spain too. They are all celebrating their birthdays today, and I swear they all have one thing in common. They're all beautiful people, but they have one thing in common, another thing in common. Right?
Is it something connected to what we're discussing about today?
I'm not sure. What are we
One
discussing?
of the institutions.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No. But they'll know what it is.
We're waiting with bated breath to find out what do they have in common.
No, I'm going to tell you.
Wendell, snarkiness alert. There was a little snarkiness in what Sir Charles said there. Yes, not a little snarkiness. You're not very sensitive. You're not very sensitive to snarkiness.
Yes, you are. A little bit again, we get a letter.
He's the king of it, you see.
We get a letter today for tomorrow.
Well, we've done that before.
Good. But happy birthday to all the others who are celebrating birthday, including the city of Port of Spain. They are celebrating 111 years of the restoration of civic rights into the city. Today is actually City Day, June 26th. All right?
Okay. So can I get into the good news now?
Yes. Do you do yours and I want to do mine after?
Well, I'm doing.
Hold on, I missed something. Did he recognize what it is that the people had in common?
But what the jail is this?
I know. I went across to check and make sure the feed is coming through.
Yeah, so you missed it.
Well, tell me now.
You play back the show later.
All right. Okay, move on. No problem.
Richard, I don't know if it's the content creators or you, but all you have a clear bias for the North Coast.
No, this is like part 2 of the North Coast. It's the same creator, but it's like part 2 of the North Coast imagery. Yeah.
But
so
you clearly have a little bias for the North Coast too. I'm watching you.
No, I have a bias to Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But let me add to that good news before you close off the segment.
And let me just recognize the creator Afzal Abdul. So please follow him on Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah, I want to add to that by saying that yesterday was the funeral of Gemma Richards, aka Gemma, aka Funky Gemma, and Gemma did something in death that she didn't do in life and nobody else did in life. She got the entire breakfast show to attend her funeral. Richard Raghubasing, Charles Davis, and myself were all in church yesterday at the Grace Communion Chapel in Samaru Village. Of course, Mutu lands where she lived and was clearly well loved because that's a big church.
Yeah.
And the church was full. Almost all the seats were filled.
Yep.
You understand?
Yep.
And she had a wonderful send-off by everyone present. You know what I mean? Of course, we saw some people who recognized us because I don't know many people. You're more out there and all over the place like instead of me. But it was nice to meet some people who came up and of course greeted us. But Gemma got the three of us to be in church.
Mm-hmm.
And the church stood up. It's still standing. So it was such a joy to, of course, attend Gemma's funeral yesterday, and it was streamed live. So I didn't see any other radio personalities there, and I didn't see any politicians there. But she had a way of Lot of people there.
But you're not contextualizing it enough when upon entry into the church, because it's like at the end of a road, and it's actually beautiful landscaping to enter the church.
Yeah.
But as you're entering, you swear that you're going to some P&M function, because there is
Balize all over. He gone silent again. Richard, your mic gone silent again. I don't know what's going on.
I know what it is, I know what it is, but I'll fix it just now. I said, so there's a whole set of Balize at the entrance. You have no doubt that this was almost a P&M function. And because, of course, she was also known as P&M Gemma. And she was an avid supporter of the People's National Movement. Even though I didn't see any P&M hierarchy there.
No, and that was very obvious to me,
Yeah.
There was a music truck with a big picture of Gemma on it, with Balize all over it.
Balize all over the truck.
Yeah.
So I think Gemma would have loved his send-off, and she would have been laughing.
Yes,
she would have been laughing. Gemma had a particular laugh.
Yeah. You know what I also want to do this morning too? Sir Charles, I want you to give the story of how you met Gemma as part of our good news too. Because Sir Charles told it to me yesterday when I was dropping about the road. And I said, but Sir Charles, you have to tell that on radio. I don't know why you never said it before, but you need to tell the listeners about how you met Gemma, Sir Charles, the first time you met Gemma.
Well, when I met her, she came to Power Water too. And I was coming to work at the same point in time, and she was in the lobby. So where we passed to go in, you'd already have to go by the lobby area. But in my normal self, I go back and I ask, are you getting help? She says, no, I'm waiting to see Sir Charles. Because she was listening to me on the radio, but she didn't know who I was. And so I said, okay, well, I am Sir Charles. And I get one of the biggest hugs, squeeze, kiss up. She was so happy to meet me at that point in time. So I said, okay, well, who are you? She said, I'm Gemma Richards. I said, okay, well, I saw probably somebody come for help with something, as everybody does, So she said, I said, Gemma Richards. I said, so what can we help you with? What are you doing here at 102? She says, I am one of Trinidad's first female DJ, So then she piqued my curiosity. I said, really? I said, so who are you? What's your name? I said, DJ name. She said, I Funky Gemma. Well, I now jump all over Gemma because I was so excited, because I've always heard about Funky Gemma. I never met her before, So then she's telling me, I said, so okay, well, you're here. She said, celebrating my 60th birthday, which was the week after. And she said, I always wanted to be on radio for my 60th birthday, but I know nobody in radio, and I know nobody else in no station has listened to you on the air and stuff. I said, okay, but I said, well, you're in the right place. I said, when is the birthday? And she told me I think it was the Wednesday or the Thursday after that. I said, I'd come right here on that day. And she came, and that day, and myself and Corey, we did live at lunch with Gemma. We spoke with her, get her life story. And that's how she came into 102. How she spread to all the other areas of 102, I don't know. But,
we know how she spread to us. She would bring breakfast for us. She would be here first thing in the morning when we get upstairs in the tea room, and Gemma would have this whole table laid out with all manner of things.
I just want to contextualize it for people. Gemma didn't just bring breakfast like a couple sandwiches and say, this is breakfast, and then breakfast all in on. No. It was like a banquet. It was ham, it was fish, it was chicken, it was chicken legs, it was chow chow, it was sorrel, it was all manner of, it was a spread.
Yes.
And Gemma did that not once, not twice, several times. Gemma did that. And she used to do also particularly annually on Christmas Eve show. She would come and she would do it. She was the epitome of generosity as a human being.
Yes.
I mean,
It really doesn't get much better than Gemma.
Yeah, she was a gem. She was a gem.
Really a gem in Gemma.
And it showed in that church yesterday with the amount of people who were there to celebrate her life. You know what I mean? And as I say, she created she created history. She get two of the people who need church real bad.
Talk yourself and sit chance like that. Thing, you know. But one of my parting salvos about Gemma, as we come to the end of the news, is that she had come up a time, you know, one of the times she took breakfast, and she told me, actually, Richard, I had a dream about you.
I remember.
I said, you had a dream about me? I said, what you dream, Gemma? To this day, I don't know what the dream was about. But every time I ask Gemma, what you dream about?
She would just laugh.
She would just laugh. She took that dream to her grave. I absolutely don't know what she dreamt. But every time I said, Gemma, what you dreaming? I would tell me, laugh.
She had a laugh. She could have laughed.
Yeah.
We'll miss Gemma. I'm happy that we all went yesterday.
You will be missed, Gemma. You will be missed, and know that you were and are loved.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So that was our good news segment. It is actually great news, you know. As I said, it was great news. So let me greet the folks on the chat this morning. Today, of course, June 26, 2025. There's a playway mark somewhere in there. I know that for sure. 062625. I'm sure there's a playway mark in there. Margaret Thomas came in at 12:43, says good morning. Erica Charles from Mova. Suzanne is sleep tonight. Suzanne, I thought I'd see her yesterday. Suzette Gemma. Oh, we did see someone. She introduced herself as Sally Simmons, Sir Charles.
Yeah.
She always follows our show. And Miss Phillips, the mother of Janice Phillips, she also introduced herself to us yesterday. And quite a few people, of course, call out to Sir Charles and so on. And they're asking if that is Wendell. Clearly, people don't know me. I'm happy for that sometimes. We
say a special good morning to Yvette, who was like Gemma's writer. They were like, so
she gave a nice testimony.
Yes, good morning to Yvette.
Yeah, nice tribute. Morning, Yvette. And good morning to Suzette, and Miss Gemma. Boy Bidesi from Debe, Marcia Rock from Orlando, Cheryl Silly from Barataria, Julia Batiste, Marlon Motley from North Valsain.
Good morning, Marlon and Julia.
Brennan Smith from Goodwood in Tobago, Alistair Hart from sunny San Fernando, Sherwin and Juliet Kerr from Arima, Wendy Ann James from Aranguez, Robert Taylor from Fernandina Beach in Florida, Ingrid from Arizona.
Morning, Ingrid.
Cheryl Johnson from Malabar in Arima, Rena Jennings from Piti Valley, Carol Guevara from Chaguana, Slick Money Grip from Port of Spain, Norris Ferguson from Arima, Anne Noel also from Oshawa, Ontario, Odell Guy, don't know where Odell Guy is from, Lambert Bruce from El Dorado, Wayne Ramsey from Fort Lauderdale, Anthony Tinto from Toronto. Tinto called me yesterday. Nice hearing from you, Tinto. Chris Tusser from Washington, D.C., Joyce Phillip, Diane Payne says, good morning, Net, and all on the live chat. Michael Robinson from Yokohama, Japan. Chris Tusser says, I see you learn from starting the show with prayers. But we always start the show with prayers, Chris. Ozzy Molino also says, good morning. Trinidad Margot, good morning, gentlemen. CJ from New York, good morning, everyone. Have a fantastic day. Yeah, morning, CJ. Ron DeSantis Jr. from Norfolk, Virginia says he is angry. I don't know what is. He needs good news. He's angry. Ron, what are you angry about? I know you'll be our first caller anyway. Jaron Joseph says good morning. Nichols says she's wishing everybody happy birthday. Lindsay Hero, okay. Anne-Marie Watson, Miss Maloney, morning. Who is Lindsay Hero trying to be an agent provocateur this morning? Truth sets you free. All right. We're gonna talk about that a bit. Truth sets you free. That this issue of the children who have been charged. Ram Naresh says tremendous thankful Thursday. Richie Boy, rest in peace to her. She also was other part of the Trinidad DJ royalty couple, significant other of Papa Rocky. Can this be not Papa Rocky? DJ Gabby.
DJ Gabby, yeah.
Not Papa Rocky. DJ Gabby, yeah. Richie Boy. Brenda Isaac from Santa Cruz. Ambrose Blah from New York. Cheryl M. Larry Charles, the best snow cone you will ever taste, wrong by QRC there around the savannah. All right. DL says, good morning, guys. Try and get an interview with Michaela to get her views post-election. You're right. She's just disappeared. Correct.
We did reach out, and there was, you reached out to an assistant, and the assistant said she would try. We did, and we have heard nothing since, so obviously she doesn't want to speak.
But she has said nothing else other than that, anyway. I've not seen or heard of anything that Michaela Pandey has said since.
Yeah, so that's why I say obviously she didn't want to speak, because I did reach out, and the assistant and I did speak, and the assistant did say that she would ask her, and she never got back to me, so I assume she doesn't want to speak. Okay.
All right. Patrick Billy from Powder Magazine. Good morning, Patrick. Lennox Francois from Baltimore. Siobhan Shogun says, love in the house. Odell Guys from Sangre Grande. Thank you very much, Odell. We got that right now. Ava Smith from San Fernando. Bernadette Yates from El Dorado. Those are all our greetings this morning thus far. So, Charles, you have any?
Yeah, of course, we have a few of them here. Let me say good morning to Terry Ann Peters. Good day to you. She's on very early. Also to Carlin out there in Carenage, getting up very early. Kent, good morning to you. Lance Indigo Martin, good morning. Archbishop Ashton Clark and the Canada team, good morning. And Frank Andrews, I want to say good morning to you. Lincoln is always up and early with his stuff. Luis Diaz, good morning. And that's it for now.
Yeah, well, Lincoln did send me one of the videos. I guess we'll play at some point in time. Good morning also to Brent Hackshaw, Garfield Hazel, and that's it. Those are the other two.
Is that the video that you sent to me via email, Wanda?
Yes, the one via email, the one with the story on the smuggler, the drug smuggler.
Yeah. Do you want me to play that now?
Yeah, you can play it now. Because I don't know if anybody else saw it. I only got it from Lincoln. So.
All right. Good morning to Horatio Services also.
A local teacher just pleaded guilty to conspiracy after admitting she provided guns to an international criminal organization for money. In a plea agreement, Shannon Salwal Singh said she received money from members of a criminal organization in Trinidad in order to buy guns from licensed dealers here in Florida. Investigators say that group would then smuggle those weapons into Trinidad and Tobago by hiding them in speakers and punching bags. When we checked this morning, she was listed as a teacher at Tampa Bay Tech. While the district did not confirm which school she worked at, they say she resigned today.
That's an incredulous story. But, I mean, when you think about all what's been happening on the seas and so on, and even that story that broke the other day with Venezuela making a certain allegation, you wonder what's really going on out there. And then there was that
going on actually.
And then there was that drug find in Portugal. That story came out, broke 2 days ago.
Yeah, it's not a weird story because it was in Portugal. It wasn't like on Trinidad. It wasn't in Trinidad and Tobago itself.
No.
But it was in Portugal, and it was a joint operation between the U.S. and Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
And so it's kind of a strange international story because it's obviously in Europe. and and whatever the connection is to Trinidad in terms of what it is. So, but I mean, kudos to the various agencies, not only here but obviously in the United States, in terms of trying to get a grip on not only the illegal drug trade but the illegal firearms trade.
Yes,
that is a big problem here, of course. I mean, it's a big problem in the Caribbean generally, but
big problem in the world.
It's a big problem here.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I don't know, like in Trinidad and Tobago, I know we have always had things happening, but it seems like, instead of it's getting better, it's escalating.
Yeah, it does seem so. So I mean, but it's a lot going on, and when they say I don't know if we're going to get more out of that story that emanated from the US that we just watched, whether that they're going to identify which criminal organization is this. Is this a local criminal organization? Is it a Venezuelan criminal organization that's now operating in Trinidad? You don't know, because you have reports of that. So it'll be interesting to find out what it is. I don't know if they're going to give more context to that story. I'm going to play it again one more time so that people who missed it or came in at the end of it, I'll just play it one more time.
A local teacher just pleaded guilty to conspiracy after admitting she provided guns to an international criminal organization for money. In a plea agreement, Shannon Salwal Singh said she received money from members of a criminal organization in Trinidad in order to buy guns from licensed dealers here in Florida. Investigators say that group would then smuggle those weapons into Trinidad and Tobago by hiding them in speakers and punching bags. When we checked this morning, she was listed as a teacher at Tampa Bay Tech. While the district did not confirm which school she worked at, they say she resigned today.
I mean, because they're referring to it as an international criminal organization. So I don't know if that's just the story taking liberty with with calling it an international criminal organization, or if it was actually an international criminal organization. I don't know. So I don't know if the facts of that story are going to be made clearer in Trinidad. I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah. But strange enough, even the Portugal story didn't really make news in Trinidad, even though it involved Trinidad operatives.
It did make news, yeah.
It wasn't big news. I mean, it
did make, yeah. It was carried in the media.
Yeah. And we've heard nothing again about the Venezuelan story. That story has also gone very quiet. But that's no surprise in some of these international stories. It's really not a surprise. All right. You have to apologize. I believe it or not, I have a plumber who are waiting on for the last 1,500,000 days. Showed up just now. Yeah, you're live already.
It's a plumber to fix the sink.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yes, it's a plumber. He's come
to fix the sink.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I was saying good morning to the folks at Horatio Services. They came in a little late. I think I said hello to Luis Diaz in Tampa, and of course Judy Davis, my sister, who just logged on a little while ago. Good morning to all.
As Alistair had put up that post, all the while the forklift keep ramming into the scanner. You know that at one point in time I had imported a television, one of those, a big screen television actually. I had it some years ago. And when I went to collect it today, I was told that the television got damaged from a forklift. They tried to take up the TV with a forklift and stick the forklift straight through the big screen.
Which big screen is that?
A big screen TV that I bought, and I had it imported, and it came into Piaco, right? And they're trying to move it. They ram a forklift through the screen. and mash up my TV. You know, I had to go through all kind of claim to get back that. You know what they gave me back? They gave me back the price of the TV out that I paid for it out there. Of course, I can't buy a TV for that money here. You understand? When you convert it, there's no way I get in that size TV in Trinidad and Tobago for that kind of money. I just had to go and put the rest and get back a TV. And this time I would tell them, be very careful with my television. And I went up there and they didn't waive any charges, nothing. I had to pay 2 sets of charges. But forklifts have done a lot of damage, apparently.
Well, you have a lot of encounters in life.
Too many sometimes, yes. That's why I had a laugh, so you know, Richard.
TVs, standards, courts, all of them bringing in 101 TV price, man. All them TVs imported and all them TVs on forklift. And they're arriving in the showrooms. Of all the TVs is Wendell's TV.
Wendell's single TV.
I'm a forklift through it.
Wendell, that might be deliberate. Well, seeing that we have such a
you can imagine the man's face who ran that TV in the forklift whole court. Match up the TV. Because we know it's a man, it's not a woman.
True.
That sounds like a man.
But you ever go in these establishments and see how they just maneuver those forklifts? Those little ones sometimes.
Yeah.
They drive crazy, you know, Richard.
Yeah. And they say they expect you to hear the beep because sometimes it's have a little beep when it's moving around there. And then they expect you to hear it instantly. Yeah. I remember a time when years ago when I bought in some stuff and I with Pascal and I went to clear it. You know, instead of kind of clear it yourself. But I went to clear it myself. But you know me, I like those kind of adventures because I like to understand processes.
Right.
Oh God, that is a process.
If it's a process again?
It's a process. And ended up by some man who writing in a book, I kid you not on a computer screen, writing in a book, and you have to go and stand by him, and he generates a lot of snarkiness. A lot of snarkiness and attitude. So he is not somebody that you can just go up and say, sir, excuse me, I came to you. He'll just look at you, sir. And he will not even talk to you. I don't think he's talked for the last 10 years. I think all his entire life has been, I write in this book for a set of stupid Trinidadians and Tobagonians and maybe some foreigners who like to bring in stuff, and I hate my job.
Yes.
That's the sense you got from him.
Yeah.
And you sit down there with that book and you kind of wait politely until he doesn't even say next or nothing. He just kind of give you a look, which means speak. So it's something like this. He's so, and you standing up waiting, and he's aware you're waiting, but then he will go on to this page, and you're still waiting, and you're still waiting, and you don't know what he's writing, because what he have in his memory so much he can write, and then he flips the page, and you're like, oh, how long I have to stand up here? And then finally he pauses, and he just does something like this.
You know what? He's probably the one.
That means talk. And whatever.
He's probably the one that encourages the number system in most of these places now. Because everywhere you go now is a number system.
I don't know. But that's years ago. I know maybe they upgraded and maybe they're all computerized and stuff.
Well, seeing that we have such a packed second hour, we are running late with the headlines and all the other things.
Well, I got delusional there. I had too much coffee.
Yes. Drink some more coffee.
Clearly, you all are not taking me on this morning.
I hear a kind of buzz like a mosquito. You hearing it?
I hear it every now and then. It's almost like
well, I can do the news day. So
I running time.
I will start with the news day. Man released in prison officer shooting. That's one of the headlines in the news day today. Police probe into fatal accident ongoing. Privy Council reserves ruling on time limit for OSH charges. Florida teacher pleads guilty to gun trafficking at Piarco. which is the story we just played. And Gonzalez, WASA dismantling partisan and corrupt. So says Martin Gonzalez, whom we had yesterday. And well, that's basically
before that story broke.
Well, yeah, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's basically our story. Of course, in the next hour, we'll be speaking to Rishi Maharaj and then Mariano Browne on a lot of these issues and what they mean. Over to you, Wendell, and the Trinidad and Tobago Express.
All right. One of this is trending online. I don't think I was respected, and that's words of the central bank, the now fired central bank governor. Rather be fired for working than not. That's also a story on the fired central bank governor.
Oh my goodness. Brandon, if I may interrupt you, because Alvin Hilliard probably has money to get, because Jawala Rambaran got what, $4 million.
Yes,
for the firing he suffered at the hands of the People's National Movement. So it's kind of like a replica, like our governments like to dish out money to former central bank governors.
So people who supposedly already have money, we like to give them more.
Yeah, it's like, and of course it's taxpayers running people because you don't follow the proper processes or whatever it is. But we'll see how it all plays out. If Alvin is going to take it to court, I assume he's going to take it to court. I don't know, but I assume so.
Not a cent came out of Mr. Imber's pocket for Mr. Rambaran, and not a cent is going to come out of Mr. Tanku's pocket for Mr. Hilliard. None. You understand? Bowlers dominate. Of course, yesterday was the first test match between West Indies and Australia in Bridgetown, Barbados, and what a day it was. I looked at cricket all day except for when I went to that funeral. West Indies bowled out Australia, of course, for 180. They unfortunately are batting 50-something odd runs for 4 wickets. We should not have lost the night watchman. I don't know why we sent any night watchman. I don't believe in it. TNT riders move up after Carnival of Speed. That's also in today's Express. And of course, we will get into some other news later on in the morning. All right.
And so over to you, Sir Charles, and the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian.
WASA heads rule, government fires CEO Halliday and 9 others. That's the main story. New central bank boss Hawaii to focus on forex crisis. Imbert questions reasons for Hillier's firing. 5 teen girls charged to attack on Holy Faith student. And Dear Saran urges the Police Service Commission to break their silence on Martin's feet in the TTPS. Some of the stories.
All right, you know what is a little confusing to me? And I mean, I just like to be logical about stuff. Keith Roy Halliday was appointed WASA CEO sometime this year. Was it around March?
Yes, he was just appointed not too long ago.
He was appointed a little before the general election, if I remember. I'm trying to find out. Let me just find out exactly when he was appointed. I don't want to be in error. And, oh my goodness, what is this? I think maybe it's just at the beginning of the year, maybe. But anyway, Keith Roy Halliday was recently appointed. Let's put it that way. Was recently appointed as the WASA head and his CEO, and the UNC just came into power in April.
Well, May 1st. Let's say May 1st.
May 1st. We are now in June. And a determination has already been made that he's a failed CEO.
Yes.
I would love to know what about the barometers that you were judging on. For it not to come across as being vindictive and petty. Because you want no government to be vindictive and petty. And both governments, the UNC and its whatever form People's Partnership and the PNM, have been accused of being vindictive and petty. When they have fired people, sometimes they fire people by fax. Prime Minister Manning famously did that. So there's always been this vindictive pettiness undertone that sometimes runs through our politics of those two parties that we are saddled with. They're being saddled in a snarky way. I guess I did. And so you want to say a failed CEO, what did he do that he failed in the short time that he was there? I would love to know what the analysis was that they made that determination, or is it just being vindictive and petty and clothing it in ambiguous terms of failed CEO, or ambiguous terms of the central bank governor was uncooperative?
Yeah.
If as a society we are moving forward and lifting the level of conversation and transparency in how we do things, we need better explanations than that.
And that will form, you've just given me the poll there, Richard, because Marlon Motley is saying he formally began work on December 1st, 2024, which is 4 months ago, 5 months before the election. 5 months before the election, right?
Yeah. Also
when you think that you go to May 1st, right? So, and we're not at July 1st yet, so it's not yet 7 months. It's just over 6 months, and he's been fired. You know, it clearly is. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. I'm beyond the UNC and beyond the PNM, because people have certain lens through which they see either party, and UNC loyalists will defend and PNM loyalists will criticize. But I'm just looking at it from an overview because both parties are guilty of doing things like that for which we've had to pay. Jamala Rambaran is a perfect example.
Yes.
And I always said I'm always cautious about firing central bank governors because whatever party is in power likes the central bank governor to be friendly towards them because there are political ramifications to what a governor says.
Yes.
All right. In terms of the financial picture of the country and stuff like that. And so, if we are to lift Trinidad and Tobago from mediocre in certain decisions and how we make them and the pettiness that sometimes underlies the politics, we have to be much more transparent and honest about how things are being done. And that's all I'm putting on the table.
I hear you.
Transparent and honest, and be careful of the language you use.
All right, well, we can take a couple of calls before we get to the poll.
Yeah. We'll do 5 minutes of calls and then we'll go to the poll.
Yeah.
Send me the poll in the WhatsApp now.
Sure.
So people can call us now at 281-1315. That's 281-1315. Good morning to you, caller.
Good morning. All you just want to hustle down the callers now. 5 minutes of calls. And anyway, I'm getting to my issues.
Exactly. Next call.
Appropriate. I'm going to bring this up on the screen. Okay. Be warned.
No one will ever convince me that Trinidad and Tobago don't have any money. When you fire 2 men, that you have to pay their salary for whenever the contract was supposed to finish. You have to still get them their money. On top of that, you have to pay who you are rehiring a new salary. And then you want to come and tell me the country has no money. Foolery. Right? Another question that I would like to ask is, this country has always given us such a half news. And the people in other countries will do it as well. This lady that was arrested that confessed to the crime, is she a Trinidadian woman or is she a foreigner that was and you see that is why they would use the word when they're maybe why they would use the word international group, international gang, or what the word you said, because if she's American and have no ties to America, that may be the reason why they use the term international group.
International criminal organization is what they say.
Right, it would be right, because if it's different people from different countries and no ties, there will be an international criminal organization. This is what I am assuming as a layman. I don't know, right? So it would be interesting to find out if she is Trinidadian or what ties she have, if any, to Trinidad and Tobago. There was another point that I wanted to mention, but it alludes me right now, so I would call back if you all have time to take calls.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Lincoln.
All right, so we're getting other calls. The number is big and bold on your screens. And of course, if you're listening to us, it's 281-1315, 281-1315. If you're outside of Trinidad and Tobago, add the 868 code before it. 281-1315. You can direct call us or WhatsApp call us, and we'll take your calls. Good morning, caller.
Yeah, good morning. I want to call out this morning, the breakfast show, to Mr. Richard Raghubar Singh. I saw advertisements where he was acting in some play recently, and I want to say we have an icon in the acting industry, and we must recognize him. Well done, Mr. Richard Raghubar Singh, for bringing laughter to the community. I must put that on the thing this morning, right? So well done, Mr. Richard Raghubar Singh, for your good work in the acting industry. I want to just acknowledge the West Indies pace bowling. The two guys yesterday, Gemma Joseph, and also the other fast bowler for West Indies, right? Where they really
pulled out
the Australia for 180 runs. I think was a good performance. It reminds me of the days of Michael Holden and Colin Croft, you know. They really had the Australia in a real tatters. But I just hope today that the batting could come to the fore and we could get past the 180. So well done to the West Indies fast bowler. Fields is the other fast bowler named from Trinidad.
Jayden Fields.
So I thank Mr. Stephen as a cricket enthusiast for really reminding me of his name. Well done, guys. Very good.
Yeah.
So Charles.
Thank you very much, Mr. Billy.
Heavy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Billy.
So we're still taking your calls. This pause. 281-1315, 281-1315. It's Thursday morning, so come on, put some energy on this step and start dialing. Of course, because we are close to the weekend. That should give you some energy. And we're close to schools getting out for August/summer vacation. So, you know, all of that should put you in a good mood, especially if you have to commute and take or drive to town or wherever you have to drive to. So 28113, I think it's next week. School's going on vacation. Is it next week?
I think it's next week. Because we are at the end of June already, yeah? June finishes this weekend. So
Charles, when school's breaking, because you have young children.
I'll get back to you on that. I ain't sure you know.
You don't know.
We have somebody coming in here who might be able to tell us. Good morning, Abby.
Good morning. Yes, school is closing next week, Friday, the 2nd.
Next week? Okay, great.
Oh, yes. So, good morning, Richard. Good morning, Wendell. You know, sometimes I wonder politics. That's why I see, as I always say, Wendell, I cannot support any political party. It is to me, it doesn't do something for me. Probably how I grew up, anyhow. I can't take that. But the thing is, Mr. Larry Hawaii, the last time I heard him speak was when the UNC had lost elections. In fact, when he was the last year as the Minister of Finance, when elections was called in 2015. We never hear this man talk again. I thought he wasn't even here anyway, because we never saw him any papers, we didn't see him in no function, nothing like that. But look, he come and get his job now.
No, we don't know, eh? You don't know if he got it. He's been tipped.
Larry Hawaii need that job? I mean,
no, we can't. Miss Darby, we can't confirm that he has gotten the job. No, nobody can confirm that. So you can't say that he has gotten it.
Nobody can confirm. So, Charles, that was the first thing on the news last night.
No, I'm not talking about the confirmation. I'm talking about the fact that if he was here, a lot of politicians, when the people fall out of the limelight, they just go underground, you know. They just don't, they say that they're not involved.
Yeah, but then, and Wendell, this is for you too. You work hard for your political party, well, not just you PNM, but other people. Other people work hard for their party, and they don't even get that kind of job. But when the party wins, the other kind of people, when I say the other kind, those other people get it, and the other small man get the worst of the jobs. I could never understand this. So I just don't know what to say sometimes, but when it comes to this, when UNC is in power, like something, they're seeing something different. They're not seeing nothing equal, nothing. I don't know what to say. Look at the boards. I am ashamed of, like, before, they always accuse us of Manning of not having Indians in the party at one time in the PNM and boards and so on. But look at the composition of the boards that have been announced already. Token, one black person, just a token, just for so. How that could be? We live in a cosmopolitan person, had no Chinese, had no French Creole, had nobody else. Politics, eh? Have a good day, y'all.
Hi, David.
I'm seeing a raging debate about that too, but I'll still my tongue for the time being.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be fixed eventually. We'll see.
All right, let's see if we can get one more call before the polls. Hello, morning caller.
Hello, good morning.
Morning, Susan.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. I was just calling to say good morning to you all. And great program as usual.
Thank you very much.
So, gentlemen, do have a blessed, beautiful day. I'm keeping it short and sweet. Have a blessed one.
All right. Schools closing on July 10th, I'm being told. Richard, your mic is silent again, if you're speaking with us.
No, I turned it off because I was playing some videos on my phone.
Okay.
To try and see.
July 11th now. I don't know which one it is. July 10th or 11th. Which one is it? Anyway, it's not next week at school closing. It's the week after it has to be. Next week can't be July 10th already or July 11th. Maybe it's closing it in the middle of the week. Let me see.
I was trying to get. It was a segment on Jimmy Kimmel. Oh, good Lord! When he for Father's Day this year, it's something he did last year too, and they interviewing fathers on the street with their children. And the children decide whether the fathers are right or wrong. And they're asking the fathers questions about their children. And simple questions, Name me 3 of your children's best friends. Father's like, does your child play an instrument? And what instrument is it? Piano. The children are going looking at them so. No, flute. But fathers get all the answers wrong. They ask the mothers, bam, bam, all the questions right. They know all the children's names. They know all the best friends' names. They know everything about the child. Fathers, clueless. And all they want to know why Father's Day is less than Mother's Day. That is why.
But it just means that us fathers give children their space. That's what it means.
Yeah, and we give mothers the opportunity to nurture and be the ones there up in the space.
Yeah.
That's all. Not wrong. Oh, Wendell, it is the 11th of July.
I'm feeling to be a switch collector this morning. It was somebody told I just say there. So I will just let that pass.
Yeah. So school closes in 2 weeks.
July 7th. July 11th.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
All right, let's go with the poll now.
Yeah, when Richard have time.
So our poll this morning, but I never read it out now while I type it up.
Oh, the poll this morning is, do you, where I put it now? Oh, Lord. Oh, this, you forget it's just the one phone I have. Good morning. Our poll this morning is, do you believe the firing of the WASA CEO was petty and vindictive? That's our poll this morning. Yeah, we're getting a little controversial. We're going to mess up Far Rockaway and Ramnarish and DL this morning with this poll. Do you believe the firing of the WASA CEO was petty and vindictive? Yes or no? That's our poll this morning.
Start a vote.
Start a vote. He was only appointed on December 1st, 2024. We are at June 25th, and he was fired. Okay? Change of government, and he was immediately fired. Based on what? Poor performance?
Being a failed CEO.
Being a failed CEO. So do you believe it was petty and vindictive? Yes, we went there today. Yeah, whatever you want to say. Let's get, you ready for results, Richard?
Yeah.
All right. Marlon Motley says, well, Miguel Gonzalez says yes. Marlon Motley, yes. Margaret Thomas, yes. Larry Charles, yes. Gregory Boyer, yes. Lloyd Cave, yes. Wayne Joseph, yes. Slick Money Grip, yes. Ingrid from Tucson, yes. Michael Oliver, yes. Katyan Tongson, yes. Denzel Alexander, yes. Melchizedek, yes. Cheryl M, yes. Robert Taylor, yes. All right, we also have DL saying yes. Brennan Smith says yes. RJ, yes. Terry Ann George, yes. Where are we? Wendy Ann James, yes. Lincoln, yes. Ann Noel, yes. Carol Guevara, yes. Finbar Collins, yes. Andre Reno, yes. Those are all our responses thus far. Joyce Phillips, yes. And we have to break now for the 8 o'clock news. And when
7 o'clock news.
7 o'clock news, my apologies. And when we come back, we will go from Lennox Francois, okay?
So continue to vote throughout the news, please.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The news you need, the clarity you deserve. Local, regional, global. This is Net Radio News Now.
This is your news update for Thursday, June 26, 2025. I am Amanda Mitchell with New Era TT Radio and M&E TV. The Water and Sewerage Authority has a new acting CEO following the removal of Keith Roy Halliday just 2 days after Public Utilities Minister Barry Padarath called him a failed CEO. Jeevan Joseph, a 24-year WASA veteran with expertise in utilities management, now leads the authority. Joseph holds a bachelor's degree in electrical and computer engineering from UWI and is pursuing an MBA at Anglia Ruskin University. Halliday, who was hired by the previous PNM government at a salary of $100,000 per month, previously led the Barbados Water Authority. The leadership change comes alongside WASA's announcement of a new board under Chairman Roshan Babwa, who replaced Ravindra Nanga on June 5th. President Christine Kangaloo has revoked the appointment of Dr. Alvin Hilaire as Governor of the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, acting on Cabinet's advice. Larry Hawaii, former Finance Minister and ex-CEO of First Citizens Bank, is expected to replace him. Hilaire, appointed in 2015 with his term extended to 2026, was removed for alleged lack of cooperation, particularly in addressing the ongoing foreign exchange crisis. Prime Minister Prasad Bisesar raised concerns that the Auditor General had been denied access to audit the central bank's accounts, leading to a legal order to allow the audit to proceed. This follows a 2015 precedent when Governor Jwala Rambaran was dismissed under former PM Keith Rowley. Rambaran successfully challenged his dismissal and was awarded $5.47 million in compensation earlier this year. 5 schoolgirls aged 14 to 18 have been formally charged with assault occasioning actual bodily harm following an attack on a Holy Faith convent student outside her school on June 10th. The girls, who attend different schools in the Cuba area, were charged yesterday after an investigation led by WPC Boodoo. Assistant Commissioner of Police Wayne Meister reaffirmed the police's zero-tolerance policy for youth violence. The attack was captured on video and widely shared on social media, prompting both police and Ministry of Education investigations. At a post-cabinet briefing, Prime Minister Prasad Bisesar warned that all future school violence incidents will result in expulsions and criminal prosecutions, with cases referred directly to police. High Court Justice Westman James has strongly criticized the state for its sustained and deliberate failure to respect constitutional protections. The ruling came as he ordered 2 men, Evans Xavier and Irving Phillip, to be resentenced after spending nearly 40 years imprisoned on commuted death sentences. Both were originally sentenced to hang, but had their sentences commuted after 5 years on death row under the Pratt and Morgan ruling. However, their cases were never reviewed by the Mercy Committee as required by law. Justice James found their constitutional rights had been repeatedly violated, calling the state's inaction an affront to the judiciary. The judge ordered new resentencing and noted that damages may also be considered. You are listening to news on New Era TET Radio. In regional news, the U.S. Embassy in Haiti has advised American citizens to leave the country as soon as they deem it safe. The embassy urged U.S. nationals to monitor local news and travel options, noting that while some domestic commercial flights have resumed at several airports, significant risks persist, especially in Port-au-Prince, due to gang activity and travel restrictions. Americans are advised to keep a low profile, avoid crowds and nighttime travel, and be prepared to shelter in place for extended periods. The advisory follows UN reports that violence against children in Haiti and other war-torn countries has surged to record levels. In international news, CIA Director John Ratcliffe has confirmed that recent U.S. strikes have severely damaged Iran's nuclear program. Ratcliffe stated that credible intelligence indicates Iran's nuclear program has been severely damaged by targeted strikes, with several key facilities destroyed that will require years to rebuild. The CIA director added that the agency continues to gather information to keep decision makers and oversight bodies fully informed, promising updates to maintain transparency on this issue of national importance. That concludes your news update for today. I'm Amanda Mitchell for New Era TT Radio and M&E TV. The Breakfast Show with Wendell, Richard, and Sir Charles continues right after this short break.
That was news now. Stay informed with New Era TT Radio, Net Radio.
Join Sir Charles for the mid-morning mix and mingle, where good music, real talk, health, and family matters come together, and your voice is heard. Whether you're at work, on the go, or just taking a break, this is the perfect mix to keep you engaged, informed, and entertained. The mid-morning mix and mingle, weekdays, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on New Era TT Radio, Net Radio.
This summer, give your child skills of a lifetime with several boot camp. Children between the ages of 5 to 17, come enjoy Children Iron Chef Competition. Your child will learn to prepare healthy breakfast, lunch, dinner, CPR, first aid, and conflict management. With field trip, your child will be given free apron and certification upon completion. Call 492-7397 or 336-4935. Institute of Health and Fitness Company Limited, located at number 79 St. Vincent Street, Tunapuna.
Mornings just got better. You're locked into Net Radio Breakfast Show, fueling your day with the best music and real talk.
Bam bam, it's bam bam your life. Bitsy bitsy, bam bam your need. Bam bam, it's bam bam your life. Bam bam, every time it pass, boy you're watching it. Every time it pass, boy you're watching it. It's bam bam your life. Watch it. It's bam bam your need. Watch it. It's bam bam in front, behind, want to take a wine, how your weekend on your knees. It's bam bam your life. Watch it. It's bam bam your need. Watch it. It's bam bam in front, behind, want to take a wine, how your weekend on your knees. Sweet woman is the remedy and the healing for the soul. The gal and them is trouble when they coming out on the road. It don't matter the shape or size, every woman looking so good. It's gal on gal and they whining and their behavior looking so good. Baby, you like it? Yeah. You want it? Yeah. You need it? Yeah. Come get it. Baby, you like it? Yeah. You want it? Yeah. You need it? Yeah. Come get it. Every time it pass, boy, you're watching 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 it. It's bam bam your life. Watch it. It's bam bam your need. Watch it. It's bam bam in front, behind, want to take a wine, how your weekend on your knees. It's bam bam your life. Watch it. It's bam bam your need.
Wake up, rise up. It's the Net Radio Breakfast Show, bringing you the energy, music, and vibes to start your day right.
And of course, welcome back to the second hour of the Breakfast Show right here on New Era TT Radio. Remember, the stream continues all throughout the day on newerattradio.com. And of course, all of your smart devices. Just to let you know what's coming up inside of the Drive Time Exchange with Tony Fraser. That's today at 4 p.m. The Promise Stand Your Ground legislation, which will spread licensed firearm weapons among citizens, will be under scrutiny in the Drive Time Exchange today. Journalist Tony Fraser will have weapons expert Jerry Goodrich, also attorney at law Omlala and chairman of the Confederation of Regional Business Chambers, Vicky Charan, as his guest at 4 p.m. That's right here on New Era TT Radio. And of course, remember, your next appointment on this YouTube channel will be at 4 p.m. today. So we continue with the Breakfast Show.
Great news, Caribbean. The Breakfast Show is now on M&E TV, bringing you entertaining conversations, vital information, and influential perspectives throughout Trinidad and Tobago and across the Caribbean region. Catch us on Digicel Channel 20, Flow Channel 111, Amplia Channel 117, Blink Channel 109, Trico Channel 154, and Airlink Channel 10. The Breakfast Show connects with the Caribbean and Trinidad and Tobago like never before. We're now on M&E TV.
The only question I have for you is how you find your play going so far?
I was gobsmacked, to say the least. Very glad that I came to see it and can't wait for the next half.
Very nice, lovely, yes. I could do it again.
I think the play is fantastic, and I actually told my husband tonight that I think this is one of the most hilarious and phenomenal ones yet.
Love that.
So I was dying of laughter, and the plot is creative and fun, so I just think it's awesome.
I find it has a twist, and it really is a game changer, right?
Right.
It's a game changer,
like
so it's a plus.
How was the show tonight?
Oh, it was fantastic. We got fabulous actors.
Yes, we do.
It was a fabulous night. My husband laughed very loud. It was exciting.
It was excellent. I must say it was a refreshing look at real life aspect of a marriage. I find it was excellently portrayed, I must say.
It was really exciting. I laughed a lot. And the story was really, really good. The principles, that they talk about and share with us, it was really good to see they put that in humor, with humor.
Have you heard? The hilarious adult comedy Married and Mischievous is coming to an end. No. Where are the last shows? I'll tell you. Port of Spain. Final 2 shows at Queen's Hall on Friday, July 4th and Saturday, July 5th at 8:30 p.m. And our absolutely last show is on Sunday, July 6th in Sapa, San Fernando. Tickets available in all usual outlets in North and South. Don't miss the comedy that everybody is raving about. Check RSR Productions Theatre on social media. And remember, strictly adults only. It's a bacchanal. S&H Rumbox, 137 Western Main Road, St. James, for all your retail and wholesale needs for alcohol and non-alcoholic beverages. Call us at 686-0599 or visit us at 137 Western Main Road, St. James. S&H Rumbox, drinking out of the box. Of course, we are back in the second hour of the Breakfast Show, and we just let me just bring up the poll, and we'll continue getting the final count and final tally for our morning poll this morning. And our poll this morning is: do you believe the firing of the WASA CEO was petty and vindictive? What's your take? And we have several votes so far, and of course, Wendell and Sylvia will now give me the final votes before we head to our first interview with Rishi Maharaj, who's waiting already in our green room.
Yes, I saw him. All right, we have some more votes. Just to confirm that Larry Hawaii is in fact the new central bank governor. He was given his instrument of appointment by Minister of Finance Devendranath Tanku yesterday. So we missed that. So congratulations to Larry Hawaii. All right. But we are dealing with the WASA CEO here. Lennox Francois said yes. Mrs. R, yes. Julia Batiste, yes. Ava Smith, yes. Kazim Mohammed, yes. Michael Robinson, yes. Beauty Culture, yes. Susan Jessup, no. James Kamau, yes. Diana Hamill, yes. Where are we again? Pearl Cordis, yes. Rena Jennings, yes. And that seems to be it. People getting all the jockey shots into breaches this morning.
Do you have any votes?
Yes. So Pauline says no. Sexy Red says no. Anand says no. Afia Lashley says no. Black Pearl says yes. Lincoln says yes. Valerie, Miss Dabadi says yes. Dre says yes. And going up the line, Joseph Clement says yes. Captain Ron says yes. Terry Ann Peters says no. And Cephas Charles says yes. And that's it. Polls are closed.
All right, so our poll this morning, do you believe the firing of the WASA CEO was petty and vindictive? We had 50 people voting in the allotted time, and of the 50 people voting, 44 of you said yes, you think it was petty and vindictive. 6 of you said, nah, we don't think so. We think there is a valid reason, I guess. So 6 said nay, and 44 say yes. So the yeas have it this morning in terms of our morning poll. Do you believe the firing of the WASA CEO was petty and vindictive? The yeas have it this morning. And that's it for the end of our morning poll. Once you see this crumpled up, don't bother to vote again. That's it. We're done. All right. And of course, at this point, we get into our Let's Talk segment. And of course, we're starting off with our first Rishi Maharaj as our first guest. Good morning, Rishi Maharaj, and thanks for joining us on the Breakfast Show this morning.
Hi, good morning, guys. How are you guys going?
We are good. Maharaj. We are good. Thanks for joining us. So much to talk about in terms of what's happening in Trinidad and Tobago and the wider world these days.
Yes, it's been a busy start to the week. I mean, the week is coming to end and it feels like it's a lot.
Maybe we could start off with what we've been discussing earlier this week. We have spoken to Robert Lahant and we have spoken to Marvin Gonzalez yesterday, the PNM internal elections. And a lot of the questions we would have asked concerning PNM internal elections was centered around how fractured the PNM seems to be from different dissenting groups. You have what I explained to Robert Lahant and Marvin Gonzalez. You have the pro or the loyalists to Dr. Rowley. You have the loyalists to Penelope Beckers Robertson. You have the issue of the change makers who have issues with Penelope Becker's leadership because they think she's too acquiescent and too cool and calm and not oppositional enough. And you have the different fractures of 102,000 people not voting for the PNM and stuff like that. Do you think that if we just let's touch on the PNM internal elections first, do you think that the new executive will be able to heal the wounds and the obvious wounds in the People's National Movement as they move forward?
I think it's going to take some time. Wounds like this don't go away so easily. The elections are still fresh. The defeat is still fresh in everybody's mind. So it takes time to get over these kinds of, this defeat and the transition from one leadership to another leadership. And we have to remember that, at least from a PNM perspective, this is nothing new. It has happened throughout the history. Let's go back to, was it 1980 when Eric Williams died? And the transition from Eric Williams to George Chambers, and then the catastrophic defeat in 86 when Madden took over. So we've seen these things where catastrophic defeats, the PNM seems fractured, seems down, and it takes time to really get things done. It takes time to settle, to understand what went wrong, and then to plan ahead to go forward. I think probably the good thing the PNM did this time around was that they moved kind of swiftly in terms of having an internal election, at least settling that from a party perspective, leadership and key membership of the executive. And now it's time for, I think, for the PNM now to settle on. They've done their postmortem. It's still probably going to continue for a couple of months, and then settle into the position of opposition. And I think you're going to see over the year, at least by budget time, I think you're going to see some settlement, hopefully within the PNM, in terms of where the members are and moving forward.
Is it that, so you think the party is going to coalesce eventually?
Eventually, I think the party is going to coalesce. Yeah, I think.
References you would have made.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's part of the course where obviously people are still feeling hurt. You have your loyalists to the former leader who was there for a very long time, and they feel that other things may have happened internally that may have caused the defeat. Ms. Penelope Beckles is now going to try to stamp her type of leadership style on the party. And of course, you have people within who like neither and wanted some. These things happen in all organizations. So I think now it's time for the leadership committee to really now settle in and try to calm the waters, try to meet with people, understand what went wrong. Obviously, we saw the voter turnout, I believe, was very low, from what I understand, for the internal elections. So I think people are still, internally within the party, there's some self-reflection still going on. But I think over time, if history shows anything to go by with the PNM, they will eventually coalesce and, get stronger from this and move on.
But it seems, what came out to me out of that PNM internal elections and the comments being made on the platforms was that obviously there was some level of dissatisfaction with Dr. Rowley's style of leadership. And people to a certain degree felt intimidated by him and intimidated by his pretty aggressive style. He has an aggressive style in terms of how he speaks and how he carries on our platform in terms of his oratorial style. It's pretty aggressive. And obviously people were intimidated by it. And so that certainly came out. Even though he wasn't particularly named, we knew that it was Dr. Rowley they were speaking about.
Yeah, I think, each leader has their own stamp of authority as to how exactly they want to be a leader. Dr. Rowley was not known for holding his tongue, even as Prime Minister. He would start off his post-cabinet meetings very good, but then somehow as the questions from the media started, that's how he is as an individual. So I think, there are people who would be intimidated by that. I think now we're just looking to see how Ms. Beckles will settle her leadership. I don't think she is as quiet and meek as people make out to be. She is a lawyer by training. She's a criminal lawyer. She started off in the criminal law field. And to be a criminal lawyer, you have to have a level of toughness within you. So I don't think you should take her, what's the old saying? Don't take my kindness for weakness. So I think she will settle into her leadership style and bring her model of how she thinks leadership should be within the PNM, whether that may be more consultative. I don't think Dr. Rowley was as consultative people have liked. So we just have to see how the leadership settles in.
Yeah. I wanted to switch the conversation now to, of course, the major news items that happened this week. And of course, one of the first is the firing of the central bank governor. I would have commented on that earlier in the week that I'm always uncomfortable when politicians or a new party fires a governor of the central bank. It seems, it always comes across, despite whatever intentions you may have, as political meddling in an institution that is supposed to give you the facts. And politicians, of course, like the facts to favor them. So you always want a central bank governor that favors you, but that's not the mandate of a central bank governor. He's supposed to really give you the picture as is, and this is what the financial picture is, X, Y, Z. How did you read the firing of the central bank governor this time around? Because it's not the first time it's happened. So what's your take on that?
Didn't like it. I totally agree with you. I thought it was a very petty and irresponsible move to make. And you're right, the central bank as a whole is a very interesting institution in any country. Central bank is supposed to set your fiscal and monetary policy for the society as a whole. They don't favor governments. They're not supposed to favor administrations. Their job is to look at the data that they have within their economy, look at the data coming out from the world, the macroeconomy, and then from that shape the best fiscal policies and initiatives, bank lending rates, forex, all these different things that will, set the economy for a long-term perspective. So they don't think in 5-year terms. They look at what's going on at economic level and try to set the tone for that. I know this government coming in had issues with the central bank in terms of giving them data. The same thing happened when the PNM came in and they met the former central bank governor and his action. I think issues like that with a central bank governor being able to fire the governor of a central bank so easily has problems in my mind. It doesn't set a stage of continuity within the central bank. It reeks of political interference one way or the other. Even the appointment of Hawaii, who I know is a very good banker, comes from the banking industry, knows it very well. But again, the central bank and the central bank governors, as part of that, is supposed to have that insularity in terms of not being political, not being partisan, quote unquote, but have the interests of the country as a whole in terms of their forecasting and what they put out.
Let me ask a question based on that, Mr. Maharaj. In terms of the appointment of a central bank governor, I don't know how it works in that. Shouldn't the deputy governors be elevated? Can they just bring someone just so clearly out of the blue? Because I don't know that Mr. Hawaii was in the banking industry at the point in time. How does that work?
So I'm not sure the Central Bank Act works, because the Central Bank Act, I'm sure, it's not constitutional. So it's all governed by the Central Bank Act. So I'm not sure the Central Bank Act works if it's done by consultation with the Prime Minister. The President acts on the advice of the Prime Minister. So it all depends on the wording of the central bank, which again I'm not familiar with the wording, but again it's up the way it's set up. The way it seems to be set up to me is that it's at the whim and fancy of the Prime Minister and the government to determine who they want to be the governors of the central bank. So that's the way it's set up. Is it the right way? I think there should be some insularity in regards to that. Maybe should be an appointment made by the president in consultation with the prime minister and leader of the opposition. So at least that gives some protection, because having this kind of whim and fancy of firing the governor if anytime you feel fit doesn't bode well from an economic point of view, I think, in terms of macroeconomic policy.
Yeah. I know Mariano Browne is supposed to join us after the interview with you, Rishi, but I see he's already backstage, so I feel like I should bring him in because he's listening. And I know...
Yeah, and he will have a lot more idea about this than I would, so yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I know he's never short on opinions. Are you, Mariano?
I'm uncertain what you're trying to tell me there.
Nothing. It's a compliment.
You mean I speak plainly and I speak straight?
Yeah.
I'm almost certain that's what he means.
All right. Well, what you call it? He's right. Actually, he said that it should be. The answer is yes, it does. The Central Bank Act does govern the appointment of Section 7 and Section 12, give the president the right to appoint the central bank governor for a 7-year term. But as the president pointed out this morning, it's also subject to Section 81 of the Constitution, right? Which
Where
means
is that music coming from?
Sir Charles. Go ahead, Mariano.
Yeah. The governor, the president, in a sense, shall consult and when advised has to follow the advice of the Prime Minister. And in this particular instance, it's clear that the disappointment of Dr. Hilaire was done by the Prime Minister, and she has no role other than to follow the advice of the Prime Minister. So I take the point that Rishi was making, but the answer is the President did consult, and the Prime Minister advised. And once the Prime Minister advises, then she is duty bound to follow the advice of the Prime Minister, in this case, to replace the central bank governor.
So doesn't that naturally come from the deputies that are there? Aren't there deputy governors of the central bank?
Sure. I mean, but the appointment is by the president in consultation with the prime minister, right? One would hope that they would consider the normal sort of employee HR position and to consider the deputies. But the answer to that is that in practical terms, that has not really happened. The appointment has always been made by the prime minister. You could go back. I mean, this is not the first time. We had a previous governor, when the UNC came into power on the previous occasion, Mr. Dukran was appointed. They probably appointed him at the end of the term of the outgoing governor. And in the case of Mr. Hilaire, if I'm not mistaken, his contract had approximately 6 months to run again. It wasn't up for renewal until sometime in January 2026. Right, so he's been clearly dismissed. Right? That's what it would look like. And a new governor has been appointed. Right? And in consultation with the prime minister. So clearly, it's the prime minister's wish that they have another central bank governor.
Okay.
So Rishi speaks about independence, but you will notice that in North America, there's a similar situation. President Trump, on several occasions, has indicated that he would like to oust the chairman of the Federal Reserve Board. Now, he's not been able to do that. By the way, he appointed this chairman, if I'm not mistaken.
He did, yes, exactly.
Right, but clearly he's not been happy with the policy. He wants lower interest rates and so on. Right, and the Federal Reserve Board governor has been focused on inflation, which means, and that there are some contradictory noises. They're not clear what the impact of tariffs will be. So in those circumstances, the Federal Reserve Board has taken a position to be conservative. When we are clear on the implication of tariffs and how they impact inflation, then we will make a decision. You have to remember the primary focus of the central bank is on the monetary sector, not fiscal, monetary sector. And that is basically how does monetary policy assist, complement fiscal policy or in terms of the direction of the economy. Now, the central banks, generally speaking, have to focus on financial stability. Financial stability is not always and the tools that you would use for financial stability do not always coincide with the fiscal position. And so that there's always a variance. And the point that I think that was made earlier by Richard, that politicians like to have things managed in a way that helps their cause. So that the central bank governors, Federal Reserve Board chairman, are always under a certain degree of political pressure when the two policies are at variance. So in this particular instance, the comment with respect to the comment that seemed to have caused the problem early on was that he said very clearly that he was not going to release private sector data. When I say private sector data, names of regard to people with regard to foreign exchange. Now, it was almost like a point of policy that the current government has said that they're going to do X, Y, and Z, and so on and so on. They're going to find out who. And that goes back to Jawala Rambaran. Now, Jawala Rambaran was kicked out of office. I think that they handled it badly. And what Jawala succeeded in court was that he succeeded that they had to pay him for the balance of his unexpired term. In other words, for the balance of his contract. If you have a 5-year contract and you kick me out at the end of 3 years, well, then you have to pay me for the difference, unless you fired me for cause. And clearly they had not established cause. So in those circumstances, the court upheld Jawala Rambaran's claim for to be paid. So that explains the payout. He did also claim for exemplary damages, and the court awarded him a small figure, $100,000. So in other words, it wasn't very exemplary. So that didn't hold any water. So he got paid for the balance of his contract. Now, the relevance of that is that we now have the CEO of WASA has been fired. He has just started his contract. I think he was into a 3-year term.
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, the balance of his contract anticipated early dismissal, and that they would have to pay him for the balance of his contract. So I imagine there'll be one or two court actions here, because under they can't, neither the governor of the central bank nor the CEO of WASA can approach the Industrial Relations Court. The Industrial Relations Court does not recognize managers. And in that circumstances, they have to go to the High Court, which is what Jawala Rambaran did. So the precedent is set by Jawala and Jawala's case. There are others.
So do you expect now that Mr. Larry Hawaii has been appointed governor of the central bank, that the issues that Mr. Alvin Hilaire refused to disclose, that they will now become public?
Well, the first thing, I mean, if you read the Guardian papers this morning, the first thing that Larry Hawaii says is that he's not going to disclose any names. Yeah, well, he said so, right? And in quite frankly, in banking law, he would have difficulty doing that, right? And I don't know if perhaps the government was prepared to accept his advice, because they probably would have spoken to this before. And the fact that he came out and said so very clearly. Now, under banking law, there's a privity of contract. You cannot disclose what you would consider my personal data except with my permission. Now, if the governor, for example, requires the banks to give them information, and they give it because they have to under law, right? There's an implied non-disclosure requirement. Right? This is personal data, right? And personal data, when I say personal, I don't mean personal to the individual. I mean personal to the corporation. A corporation is a legal person, and therefore the same modalities that apply to an individual will also apply to a corporate legal person. And that is it. Those are the circumstances. So in those circumstances, Larry understands clearly what the banking law is and has said what he's going to do in accordance with the banking law. So clearly, they may have had other discussions in terms of the foreign exchange situation, and they are quite willing to take his advice on board. They trust him more than they would trust Hilaire, right? So those are the circumstances.
Yeah. I wanted to turn the conversation to the firing of the WASA CEO, and I don't know, Rishi, if you could start off that conversation and how that read to you in terms of the current situation. And because we did a poll this morning whether our listeners and viewers thought that the firing of the CEO of WASA was petty and vindictive, and the majority said yes, because all we got from the government, and certainly through their spokesperson Barry Padarath, was that he was a failed CEO, and that's what was said, at least in the media. And simply, I didn't know that was enough after such an early tenure in office. What determined that he was a failed CEO? What's your take on it, Rishi?
Well, I think that it was definitely petty in terms of what was done. But I think from the time the UNC won the election, it's probably known, especially their views on the WASA transformation, that he was the one that was brought in by the government after an extensive search, I'm assuming, to come in to really lead that transformation effort. And I guess obviously the UNC has seen him as that person, that figurehead, as part of the PNM's plan to transform or radicalize WASA and modernize it, organizational structure and everything else, as the key person leading that charge. So definitely I think his tenure was already written from the time the UNC won the election. It definitely was very petty. As Mariano said, I mean, obviously, if you need to dismiss somebody, there has to be a cause. And if there's no cause, then obviously, I definitely agree. I think there's going to be some court action and compensation. So the question now we need to ask the government is, what's the cost you're going to pay now to him for dismissal in his early tenure of his contract? I think he only started in December last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, December 1st,
just about 6 months or so into his tenure. How much can you do within that period to judge somebody as a failure? I don't know from a metrics point of view, but definitely it was petty on the part of the government in terms of the way it went down, the way it was handled. But I think it definitely was already written based on election talk and everything about WASA and stuff like that. That from the time they assumed office, he was definitely going to go.
Yeah. What's your take, Mariana? You think it was petty and vindictive?
Well, the answer to that would be yes. Right. But let's have to put this in context. This is not the first WASA CEO to be fired. All right, we've had ups and downs in WASA for quite some time, and there have been many transformation efforts at WASA. Many transformation efforts. And that's one of the difficulties. You would not see the same level of interference, for example, in tea and tech. Right? And that's one of the reasons why tea and tech also has a much stronger track record in terms of delivery. But tea and tech is also stymied. Why do I mean that it's stymied? Because government determines, well, as much as they say that they don't, and there's a rate implementation board or a supervisory body that looks after it. The reality is when you look at the finances of tea and tech, the rates do not pay for its operating costs. I mean, tea and tech cannot even pay for the gas that it receives at undervalue. No, I've had that argument and myself with a couple of other people on an ongoing basis. But the reality is that there are billions which are owed to NGC. Right? So effectively, NGC is subsidizing tea and tech. Right? And it can't pay for the gas that is supplied. Right? So clearly, the rates are out of balance. The recovery of its operating costs, and particularly the cost of the gas that is being supplied, is below market value, right? So and you don't hear all of those difficulties. You hear people saying they don't want the rates to increase and so on. So they clearly it's subject to political football. Now, there are many difficulties which this government will have to face. Tea and tech rates is one, WASA weights is another, transformation of WASA, whether you like it or not, right? WASA is not delivering water in the fashion it ought to. It requires a considerable investment at a time when the government is strapped for cash, right? And to make that investment, by definition, you also have to make some compensating adjustments for improving in supply. All right, so those are difficult questions that politicians have to face, and quite frankly, you don't get votes by increasing prices of water and electricity and so on and so forth. I mean, you don't have to look too far to see what happens when you do, right? But the reality is that they cannot continue in the fashion that they are doing. This is both tea and tech and WASA are basically providing services at undervalue, right? They will become bankrupt, right? So,
but how is the government going to balance that, though, Mariano? Because the government has already indicated that they're not raising tea and tech rates. I think they said specifically as yet, or at least in the next couple of years. I mean, but,
the point is very clear. I mean, there comes a point in time at which decisions have to be made. Unfortunately, we're getting to some of those points. There's some realities that we're going to have to face, right? NIB is in the same position, right? Tea and tech is in the same position. WASA is in the same position, right? The National Insurance Security position is, and when I say security, I'm talking about its assets and so on. It is selling its assets to pay benefits. Well, when you start selling off your assets to pay benefits, your survival is going to come to an end at some point in time, and it's going to come to that end fairly quickly. So there are two things you have to balance. You have to deal with the retirement age. You have to deal with the amount of contributions, right? You have to deal with the size of the benefits. Those are three things, none of which the public will like. But if you don't do it, ultimately, the organization is going to die, right? You have the same problem with tea and tech, you have the same problem with WASA. So to say that you're not going to do it, or you're not going to do it as yet, there will come a point in time when you have to, right? So these decisions are the kind of decisions that are best made early and quickly, and give you time to settle in, so that you could get past the difficulty. Because the longer you take into your term, the closer you are to the election. Everybody remembers the actions that you take. Right, so these are not easy issues, and we have to remember this is a critical issue, right? We are still living in the model that the energy sector will generate the majority of our taxation, and the rest of the country will have a lower level of personal taxation. Right? We are not at that level. We are not at that place at the moment. Right? We know that the production of gas is 40% lower than it was at its high point. We know that they have plants which are closed. We know that energy prices declined in 2014 and remain declined except for a little blimp as a result of the Ukraine-Russia war in 2022 and 2023, right? That's why in 2024, right, we have such a big deficit, and that's why we're going to have such a big deficit in 2025. The revenue isn't over 50 billion, not significantly over $50 billion, but we're spending 60 billion, right? As long as you have that imbalance in terms of my revenue versus my expenditure, you have to make some decisions.
There are two rumors that have been running the mill for the last few weeks, and especially so since the change of government. And I'd like to get the views of you both gentlemen on it. One is about the resurfacing or the reinstituting of the old cotton $100 bill. That people have been talking about that. How will that help us in this situation? And of course, about the devaluation of the TNT dollar.
Which one you want to go first?
Anyone.
About the cotton bill, that's done, right? So that what you call it? That's a. I mean, if the day that they reintroduce the cotton bill, right, that would be as clear an indication of sexual interest that you could get, right? Because what it means is that all of those whose monies were under the table, right, would now have an opportunity to bring it back into the system. And we had some pretty loud examples of what took place. Right? I'm sure that there are more, right? So move that aside for the time being. I don't see that happening, right? If it could, well, then we know what's happening. All right. With respect to the other issue, these are difficult times. Hard decisions have to be made. That's a reality. Right? And I don't think that the equation, the revenue equation is very straightforward. If I have X billion dollars in revenue, there's a limitation on how much I could spend. If you keep spending more than you are, you're going to run into problems. And that's where we are.
So you think that evaluation is inevitable? Is that what you're saying?
Well, there are two issues here, and let's look at it as well. From the time that the private sector is not in foreign exchange deficit, the government is, right? In large measure because the government is spending more money than it's earning, right? And therefore has borrowed. Now, every time that you borrow and you run a fiscal deficit, a deficit is expansionary, correct?
Mm-hmm.
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Every time you expand demand, you have to remember what the import coefficient is. About between 70 and 90% of every dollar results in an import. So every time you expand the deficit or you continue the deficit, you are in fact basically turning on the foreign exchange outflow. It doesn't have anything to do with who gets in it. Right, the issue is that the demand for foreign exchange is greater than the supply. Right, we are earning less money, we're exporting less. Right, and on that basis, you're going to have less earnings of foreign exchange. Right? If that is so, then the balance between the longer you wait, the bigger the gap, and you're going to end up in a devaluation. That's why the move to that's why holding the rate constant has put us in a difficulty. The second part of that is if everybody knows that the rate doesn't reflect reality, right? Less money is going to come into the system because when I put it, if I sell it to the commercial bank, I don't know if I get it back, right? And all we have to do is to look at the volume of US dollar holdings that is in the system. It's increasing. It means that people have no confidence. They put my money, I put it in a US dollar account, because you have to account to me for my US, right? I ain't coming to ask you for the US. When I come for my US, it's mine. I want you to give it to me. You can't give it to me in cash, give me a check. But it's mine, right? So what that says is that there's the confidence that I could sell money to the central bank and get it back. It's gone. Yeah. And then in that circumstance, the supply will go too, right? That's issue number one. Issue number two, if the government is releasing a specific amount to the private sector or to the commercial banks to reduce or to, in a sense, balance off what you want. But they decided that they're going to give money to the Exim Bank, right? You think they're giving the same amount to the private sector? They're giving it to the commercial banks? The answer to that is no. It's now going to the Exim Bank. So the commercial banking sector is getting less. So what you find is that the commercial banks are probably in what is called an oversold position. Now, an oversold position meaning they're selling more than they have, right? Which means that they're probably trading on the private deposits that they're playing with. The day that they get caught out and there's a change in evaluation, the commercial banks have to going to take a heavy loss, right? Because they now have to revalue the portfolio and revalue what they owe.
Right. Okay, I get you.
They're going to be in a heavy loss. So the commercial banking sector is, by definition, I have to remember, I gave out credit cards. Every month that credit card bills comes from Visa, MasterCard, or whoever, I have to pay it.
Yes.
I must pay it. So I'm going to pay that first, because if I don't, then my entire financial, my capacity to basically entertain foreign trade will disappear. Because Visa and MasterCard are not going to say, well, you pay me next month. No, you got to pay me every month on the due date. Fact.
Yeah.
Right.
Mr. Maharaj, do you have any opinion on those issues?
Well, I think Mariano said it very quite correctly. These things don't go away overnight. It's issues that we've been dealing with for many, many years. And politicians seem to want to kick the football down the road all the time and not deal with reality, because reality is reality. And that's what Mariano just said. The economic reality is facts. And facts speak for themselves. We've known the problem of NIB for many years. We've known the problem of WASA. We've known the problem of TNTech. And we've known the problem of the economy since 2015, the states that we've been. And these are just realities, and these are just facts that we as a population need to understand and need to accept that changes have to be made. Tough decisions have to be made, and politicians have to make those tough decisions. But if your campaign was on basing all salary negotiations at a 10% starting minimum, if your campaign was on restarting the petroleum plant and the billions of dollars probably going to take to try to restart that back from it's been down for many, many years, then that has consequences. And economics, it doesn't change overnight. So, I think I definitely agree with Mariano in that early in your term, you have to face reality, because this is the reality. And the reality we face is very fluid, because we also need to base this on what's going on in the world. Tariffs and all different things that happen all over the world, conflicts and all these different things that are going to impact how we exist as a country. So it's important, I think, that the politicians face the reality, and it's best to take your bitter medicine early, because that way you allow people time to absorb it and to be able to understand what's going on. Because I agree with Mariano, the longer you take, the longer these things are just going to be put down the road, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse.
So is it then that the expectation is that the government needs to just simply say, listen, we cannot agree or acquiesce to the promises that we made, especially in terms of the 10% increase, because the union certainly looking forward to it in the next budget. So is it that they need to say from now, listen, we cannot do this, we have to face certain realities, and it's not going to happen?
The reality is the reality. What did Chamber say when he became Prime Minister after the election? What party done?
Set over,
back to work. And
back to work.
This is just the reality of life, and this is just because think of it as you're in your house. You can't be spending more than you make it, because eventually something's going to happen. You're going to lose your house. You're going to lose your car. Something's going to happen. You have to make changes as an individual, and as a country, our government has to make changes. You can't be bringing in, like Mariano said, 45-50 billion and spending in excess of 60-70. Eventually, a limit to borrow is going to go down. Interest rates are going to be too much, and you just can't do it. So yeah, I think the government has to face that reality. So I think the key to this is what we're going to see in September in their budget, because I think between now and the budget, they've inherited a budget. They've asked for supplementation and all these things, and they're going through and trying to see exactly what's going on. What I'm looking forward to is what happens in the budget, where I think they'll now set their fiscal plan going forward, and we're going to be able to see what their thinking is and how they're going to deal with some of these problems that have been there for years.
Yeah,
there is an example, there is a precedent. You remember that in the 2010 election, Prime Minister Kamla Prasad Bisesa promised that everybody would receive a pension at age 60. Now, I was in the Ministry of Finance at the time, and the rough calculation, without taking public servants into position, was that the bill went up from $1.6 billion to something like about $7 billion. All right. Now that's literally a 10% jump in one category of expenditure only. And when that happened, and when they did those calculations, they came into office and they understood the enormity of that one promise, right? She backed off.
They said it was a misprint.
Right. Well, yes. All right. Now, the promises that have been made here, and the fact that you have, effectively, by canceling the TRA, the PSA were not able to defeat the government in court. Right. So they defeated them politically. They came to an accommodation with the UNC. The Minister of Labour is a former president of the PSA, and the TTRA went. Right, it disappeared. This is the second time this has happened. It happened in 2010 when UNC came into position. They sacked the TTRA. And then in 2025, they came into position and sacked the TTRA all over again. All right. So on the revenue generating side, you have no real improvements. So this is going to be a very difficult position all around. So I don't see how they can accommodate all of the problems. And here's the problem. From the day that you do that, you're expanding your expenses, but you're not doing anything about your revenue. All right. So if you move from $58 billion in expenditure, and you move it up to 63, but your revenue remains stuck somewhere between $47 and $50 billion in a deficit again. Well, the only thing you could do is borrow. Now, the lesson on that is very clear. All right. Jamaica did that. Barbados did that. And they all ended up at the IMF door. Now, the policies that this government has to put in, or any government has to put in, will be the same policies that the IMF will come and tell you. So it's either one, you come and let them say, well, they're doing it, or alternatively, you do it. All right. Now, you have some choices in terms of the policy mix. All right. But once you get to that level and you have to deal with an external party, and you took their money, and this is about banking 101, and you borrow from me, you got to repay me. To repay me, you have to do something to generate the surplus to be able to pay me. All right, now you lose flexibility when you get to that stage. So at this stage, this is a very critical time for this government. It's a very critical time for any government in the case of Trinidad, because this is not sustainable. It simply is not. All right, and suggesting, as Mr. Munilal did, that you could accelerate the production of gas from Manatee and thereby generate additional revenue. Well, just think about that. If I accelerate the production today, right, what am I saying for tomorrow?
Yeah. But coming back to the TTRA, the government has said that in the scrapping of the TTRA, they said they're going to make the BIR more efficient. How do you analyze that?
Well, I mean, I am long on record as saying, whilst you're working towards the TTRA, fix the Board of Inland Revenue, because you're talking about in between administration. 2010 was the last time we're talking about TTRA in position, right? We're in 2025, it gets crap again. Let me assure you, and let me give you an example here. Property tax and the revamp of the property tax started in 1965. In 1971, it was postponed because of the events of 1978. We did pass legislation, which I had to repeal in 2009. Right now, you realize the differences between dates? 30 and 40 years? We're not at a stage where we have 30 and 40 years to play with.
Yeah.
That stage is gone. Right? So if you say you have to make some dramatic changes, and you have to make them quickly. Right? Now, if you didn't spend any time thinking about it, you're going to lose at least 18 months in conceptualization, and another 18 by the time you begin to bring it and to put it into position and so on. You're going to end up with the same difficulties that you had with the TTRA in terms of persuading the PSA and everybody else to go along. Lest we forget, right, that when Mr. Duke was in charge, and there are certain changes which were required within Inland Revenue, wasn't there a lot of problems getting it done? Or is my memory wrong?
Well, I know we are close to closing of the interview, and I just wanted to touch on the Israel-Iran conflict and what possible implications that would have for the Caribbean generally, or Trinidad and Tobago, and Trinidad and Tobago specifically. Do you see any financial implications one way or the other to Trinidad and Tobago because of that conflict?
Well, there are two. In the first instance, the response because of Mr. Trump's intervention and the international market, and those people with money, figure that Iran is not going to do anything. They basically have capitulated. Right? Immediately, when they thought in terms of what the actions that Iran could take, the price of oil and the price of derivatives went up. It crossed $81 on Monday morning. Right? The ceasefire came in, the prices have gone down to $65. Now, put that in context. Right? Unless Iran does something dramatic, prices will continue to fall.
All right. That would be specifically for oil, not natural gas.
It is priced off the same thing. That's why we have barrel of oil equivalents. If I could get X barrel of oil, and I have to pay X for it, then by definition, and it's cheaper than using gas, right? Then I will use oil instead of gas. So there is there's a substitute position at work here. Whilst we expect and understand the position with climate change, at the end of the day, I'm also still looking at the cost of generating electricity, the cost of generating power. Right. So from the time the price of oil declines, it will have a knock-on impact on the price of gas.
Yeah. Right. You have any opinion on this, Rishi?
No, I think whatever happens in the energy price is going to be very short-lived. I think to try to depend on the crisis to drive energy prices up to help you with your budgetary problems is a fallacy. It's not going to happen because the world is different and changing. So I think it's definitely a short-lived fallacy. And then we also have to remember these conflicts kind of like to be drawn out in proxy wars. So the conflict it starts there, but it then moves to proxies. And of course, we have Venezuela next door that has always been an ally of Russia and Iran. And so we don't know if things could generate on that end where, Venezuela has the issues with other countries and then the US sides with the other countries, and Iran comes in to help with them. These proxy wars could also have impacts from a security point of view in our hemisphere. So these are some of the things we need to be aware of and wary of.
All right. Well, guys, that's where we're going to have to leave it this morning. So I don't know if you have any closing words, Rishi, as we end off the interview for this morning. I want to say thank you to both of you, actually, for speaking with us. Always interesting conversations when we speak to you.
The last time we had these two gentlemen, and along with our program, when we had the most views ever on our show. So we want to thank you very much for coming back again.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation.
No problem, guys. Thanks a lot.
You're both welcome. All right.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Mm-hmm. Of course, this is we have been speaking to Mariano Browne and Rishi Maharaj of Maharaj, and we just know. Yeah, and of course, we're a little after 8 o'clock, so this is where we'll go to 8 o'clock news, and when we come back, we'll be wrapping up the breakfast show for this morning.
The news you need, the clarity you deserve. Local, regional, global. This is Net Radio News Now.
This is your news update for Thursday, June 26, 2025. I am Amanda Mitchell with New Era TT Radio and M&E TV. The Water and Sewerage Authority has a new acting CEO following the removal of Keith Roy Halliday, just 2 days after Public Utilities Minister Barry Padarath called him a failed CEO. Jeevan Joseph, a 24-year WASA veteran with expertise in utilities management, now leads the authority. Joseph holds a bachelor's degree in electrical and computer engineering from UWI and is pursuing an MBA at Anglia Ruskin University. Halliday, who was hired by the previous PNM government at a salary of $100,000 per month, previously led the Barbados Water Authority. The leadership change comes alongside WASA's announcement of a new board under Chairman Roshan Babwa, who replaced Ravindra Nanga on June 5th. President Christine Kangaloo has revoked the appointment of Dr. Alvin Hilaire as Governor of the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, acting on Cabinet's advice. Larry Hawaii, former Finance Minister and ex-CEO of First Citizens Bank, is expected to replace him. Hilaire, appointed in 2015 with his term extended to 2026, was removed for alleged lack of cooperation, particularly in addressing the ongoing foreign exchange crisis. Prime Minister Prasad Bisesar raised concerns that the Auditor General had been denied access to audit the central bank's accounts, leading to a legal order to allow the audit to proceed. This follows a 2015 precedent when Governor Jwala Rambaran was dismissed under former PM Keith Rowley. Rambaran successfully challenged his dismissal and was awarded $5.47 million in compensation earlier this year. 5 schoolgirls aged 14 to 18 have been formally charged with assault occasioning actual bodily harm following an attack on a Holy Faith convent student outside her school on June 10th. The girls, who attend different schools in the Cuba area, were charged yesterday after an investigation led by WPC Voodoo. Assistant Commissioner of Police Wayne Meister reaffirmed the police's zero-tolerance policy for youth violence. The attack was captured on video and widely shared on social media, prompting both police and Ministry of Education investigations. At a post-cabinet briefing, Prime Minister Prasad Bisesar warned that all future school violence incidents will result in expulsions and criminal prosecutions, with cases referred directly to police. High Court Justice Westman James has strongly criticised the state for its sustained and deliberate failure to respect constitutional protections. The ruling came as he ordered 2 men, Evans Xavier and Irving Phillip, to be resentenced after spending nearly 40 years imprisoned on commuted death sentences. Both were originally sentenced to hang, but had their sentences commuted after 5 years on death row under the Pratt and Morgan ruling. However, their cases were never reviewed by the Mercy Committee as required by law. Justice James found their constitutional rights had been repeatedly violated, calling the state's inaction an affront to the judiciary. The judge ordered new resentencing and noted that damages may also be considered. You are listening to news on New Era TET Radio. In regional news, the U.S. Embassy in Haiti has advised American citizens to leave the country as soon as they deem it safe. The embassy urged U.S. nationals to monitor local news and travel options, noting that while some domestic commercial flights have resumed at several airports, significant risks persist, especially in Port-au-Prince, due to gang activity and travel restrictions. Americans are advised to keep a low profile, avoid crowds and nighttime travel, and be prepared to shelter in place for extended periods. The advisory follows UN reports that violence against children in Haiti and other war-torn countries has surged to record levels. In international news, CIA Director John Ratcliffe has confirmed that recent US strikes have severely damaged Iran's nuclear program. Ratcliffe stated that credible intelligence indicates Iran's nuclear program has been severely damaged by targeted strikes, with several key facilities destroyed that will require years to rebuild. The CIA director added that the agency continues to gather information to keep decision-makers and oversight bodies fully informed, promising updates to maintain transparency on this issue of national importance. That concludes your news update for today. I'm Amanda Mitchell for New Era TT Radio and M&E TV. The Breakfast Show with Wendell, Richard, and Sir Charles continues right after this short break.
That was news now. Stay informed with New Era TT Radio, Net Radio.
The only question I have for you is how you find your play going so far?
I was gobsmacked, to say the least. Very glad that I came to see it and can't wait for the next stop.
Very nice, lovely, yes. I could do it again.
I think the play is fantastic, and I actually told my husband tonight that I think this is one of the most hilarious and phenomenal ones yet.
Love that.
So I was dying of laughter, and the plot is creative and fun, so I just think it's awesome.
I find it is it has a twist, and it raises a game changer, right?
Right.
It's a game changer, so it's a plus.
How was the show tonight? Oh, it was fantastic. We got fabulous actors.
Yes, we do.
It was a fabulous night. My husband laughed very loud. It was exciting.
It was excellent. I must say it was a refreshing look at real life aspect of a marriage. I find it was excellently portrayed, I must say.
It was really exciting. I laughed a lot. And the story was really, really good. The principles, that they talk about and share with us, it was really good to see the.
Have you heard? The hilarious adult comedy Married and Mischievous is coming to an end. No. Where are the last shows? I'll tell you. Port of Spain. Final 2 shows at Queen's Hall on Friday, July 4th and Saturday, July 5th at 8:30 p.m. And our absolutely last show is on Sunday, July 6th in Sapa, San Fernando. Tickets available in all usual outlets in North and South. Don't miss the comedy that everybody is raving about. Check RSRR Productions page on social media. And remember, strictly adults only. It's a bacchanal. S&H Rumbox, 137 Western Main Road, St. James, for all your retail and wholesale needs for alcohol and non-alcoholic beverages. Call us at 686-0599 or visit us at 137 Western Main Road, St. James. S&H Rumbox, drinking out of the box. Of course, this is where we close off the show, the breakfast show this morning, this Thursday morning. Of course, the weekend begins tonight, people, at a second after midnight. Don't you forget it. We love a weekend on this morning talk program. So I want to thank our guests again, Mariano Browne and Rishi Maharaj, for joining us this morning and giving us some interesting perspectives on various issues. We went through several issues this morning, and of course, they handled it well in terms of giving their opinions and stuff like that.
Yeah, I always enjoy listening to a very matter-of-fact Mariano Browne. He says it as he sees it, and most times 99% of the time he's correct. You understand? And Rishi Maharaj has always been a pleasure interviewing him too. He's always very articulate and factual. So it was a great show. Of course, we will speak with you all tomorrow. I don't know if the boss have anything lined up tomorrow, but you all get to talk.
Do you have anything to say?
Huh?
I'm asking the boss, Charles, do you have anything to say?
I really enjoyed the interview with the guys, I must say. They put it real outside there. The government have a lot of things to look at. How do you face reality while trying to please people with their promises? So it's going to be interesting times.
Yeah. I don't know how well the previous government and this government would get out of that situation where those increases were taken at the very last minute. Because this government ain't changed that, even though they critiqued it, even though they criticize it, they ain't change it. So clearly citizens are going to eventually get very upset somewhere down the road, very upset. I just hope that something could be done to minimize that impact on citizens down the road. You understand? Let's see where it goes.
All right, and of course, programming continues throughout the day. Of course, we may come off YouTube momentarily, but we're going back onto, you can continue listening on newera.ttradio.com and New Era TT Radio on TuneIn, of course, which you can get also on your smart devices. Of course, we'll speak to you bright and early tomorrow morning, which will be Friday.
Yeah.
And
Just a quick reminder, I'm happy, Scorpion Pepper. We didn't get to discuss that today, but we need to discuss that issue of school violence and what has happened to these young people in terms of the charges. Have they been charged, the Holy Faith students?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think this
is right. And something had to be done to kind of stem the tide of the school violence. So I'm not opposed to it, but we have to find other ways of dealing with school children and their violence. I don't know if
tomorrow's show we'll be talking generally to our audience rather than having a designated guest per se. which will be kind of our Friday show. So,
You hear that? Sir Charles, the boss just speaking now.
All of those topics can be handled tomorrow, but it's 8:15 on the dot, and this is where we end. Have a fantastic day, people, and speak to you bright and early tomorrow morning. This has been
One Life. You gotta live it.
The Breakfast Show.
Wake up, it's a brand new dawn. The Breakfast Show got the vibes turned